Hey guys, welcome to the Hey DJ show. I'm your host DJ Jimenez. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're over on YouTube, please go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more content. Remember, you can catch this podcast wherever you get your podcasts on the go. And do consider following me on every social media platform at the Hey DJ show or Hey DJ show. Not important, you'll find me. I'm popular. Not really. Anyways, with all that boring stuff out of the way, I'm super happy to introduce my next guest, Brittany Hodge. Brittany, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I gotta say now that we're not live, but I like to say live. Thank you so much for being on the show. Because you drove freaking 4 hours to be here, so I'm honored.
I come up here.
I don't care. It's still 4 hours, and that's not a small thing. So I really appreciate it. I'm honored.
Well, I don't. You're welcome, I guess. Okay. I have a question for you.
Wow, we're shooting into it. You have questions for me?
I do.
Okay. Go right ahead. Just hijack the show.
When we were younger,
mm-hmm.
You hated social media, didn't you?
Yes, I still do.
Has it been like? Do you feel like you have learned more, or?
Oh, and real quick for my audience, so Brittany has her kids in the studio.
Oh yeah.
So no, it's fine. It's fine. It's lax. It's not a big deal. I just wanted to let the audience know, but yeah. Anyways, sorry.
But yes, you did not like social media at all.
Mm-mm.
Like, I remember that so clearly because I'd be like, well, whatever about social media. It really wasn't a big deal when we were younger, though.
It really wasn't.
Mm-mm.
But in my opinion, somewhere, I mean, I don't know what year, but it skyrocketed to being like kind of bad. I mean, you're good. But it skyrocketed because I don't know what was before MySpace. I think it started with a Z, if you remember.
I lived in Mississippi in 2006 and 2007, and over there the two things that were big were Facebook, because there was a college right there and they used it, and of course the siblings used it, and then they would get their friends to use it, and the other thing was Bebo.
Never heard of that.
But I remember that one, you would make your own music videos, and Taylor Swift wasn't that big then, and she would post things on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And those were the two. But when I moved here, because we went from Mississippi to Canton to Jessup, and then back up here to Kennesaw. And when I moved to Jessup, MySpace was big, and I didn't know how to use it. Didn't have a clue. So I understood you in that aspect, but I had always used Facebook.
Yeah, I started with MySpace, and then Facebook. I had Facebook, and I didn't make it. My drama teacher, our drama teacher, Michelle, she made it because like I turned 18, and she was like, "Hey, you can work as an extra background actor and all that stuff," and it did help out, and then I enjoyed it, like, but then around 2017, I didn't delete it, I just stopped using it. So I had like a couple of year hiatus. Like, I honestly did not go on it. Yeah, you too. And
I think we had different reasons. But...
Yeah. Oh, mine was not a dark reason. I was just like, I got tired of it.
See, I had a hard time after I had my sons, specifically him. I felt mom shamed all the time, right?
Oh, no.
And I felt like I had to be compared to other moms in my area.
See, is that a thing with moms? Like, okay, I mean, it makes sense now that I think about it. It again, it's like the body shaming. It's the career shaming. It's social media. Whatever.
So when it came to Facebook in particular, I didn't have any social media. I completely disappeared off of all social media I didn't join social media back till 2020.
Yeah, that's right.
And when I came back, I remember I set like certain standards for myself. One thing is I do share some photos of my kids and stuff, but I really don't share too many of their face.
Mm-hmm.
But part of that was because when Xander was younger, he was not the normal kid. He had a G-tube. He couldn't process milk, even like the craziest off-the-wall milks he couldn't process, but he could process baby food. And I remember there was this girl in the town I live in who was like, it's wrong to give your child baby food when they're 4 and 5 months old. And I was like, I can get a prescription. Do you want it? Do you want to see it? This is
real quick. Push the microphone closer to you, or pull it closer to you. There you go.
Yeah, I suck at this.
Oh no, you're fine.
But I remember being like, I can show you why we need it, and if you were in our daily lives, if you actually knew us, you would understand. And the older my kids got, I had another child, and I just felt obligated to compare myself to those moms, and it was just not a healthy thing for me. I had gone through a divorce at that point, and I was like, you know what, it's trash.
Yeah.
Trash. And I never realized how much it really did take up of my time back then, even though like I only used it in the evenings and stuff. It still really was like, this is how I communicate with people in my area. And when I got rid of it, I remember being like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to know anybody. You learn to live without it just like we had always had without it.
Yeah. Before I quit, I honestly, and I still I do this to this day with no shame. I'll scroll for like at most 5 minutes. If I don't see anybody post, after 5 minutes, I stop.
Yeah.
I literally go like I scroll really quickly, and then I throw my phone across the room. I'm like, all right, I'm done, and then I go on and do something else. And I'm not trying to act like, oh yeah, I'm super productive. No, I just watch a lot of YouTube videos. So I'll scroll Facebook or Instagram, Snapchat, but now I split the time. So now I spend like a minute and a half on Facebook, a minute and a half on Snapchat, a minute and a half on Instagram. Listen. Toss my phone, go watch YouTube.
You have had some of the best Snapchat content that I've ever seen. When I rejoined social media, I started with Snapchat.
Mm-hmm. And I love Snapchat. I'll be honest, I do love Snapchat.
I love Snapchat, and I really do like TikTok. I do, and I like it for some off the wall reasons sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I like how fast the videos can be, and now YouTube has those YouTube Shorts.
I hate them,
and it's just not the same. Mm-mm. And the Instagram stories, I kind of like almost even better than TikTok sometimes. Yeah. They don't have as much filtering, I guess.
When I joined back up, that one was for a reason. It was because I moved out to Atlanta, and you know me, I grew up in Ackworth and Kennesaw. My social life was here. I'm an extrovert. I have lots of friends.
We're complete opposite.
I'm Mr. Popular. No, I'm not. But
you are.
I'm not. No. I'm not Mr. Popular. I just have a lot of friends, but I'm not like, oh, the varsity football dude. No, I just have a lot of friends.
But you were able to make. We only went to school 1 year together. Mm-hmm. But when you are around somebody, you're able to make such a big impact in their lives that they remember you for years. It's good and bad.
I'll fully, admit that. Like I don't have an ego. But I recognize that I can quickly make friends, but I can quickly make enemies too, because
me too.
I try not to, but I don't know how, but I've gotten criticized where enemy turned friend would be like, oh, sometimes you come off as pretentious, but most of my friends go like, no, you don't. I don't see it. Mm-hmm. I do try to work at it. Like I do my best not to, but because I'm nowhere near. I joke like having an ego, like a big ego and stuff.
Yeah,
and I guess maybe people take it too seriously.
Yeah.
Like one of the jokes I do, dumb jokes I do like for years is when somebody goes like, oh, nobody's perfect. I'm like, exactly, only
I
me.
am.
But
Yeah.
anyways, whatever. But like, I'm just
I'm
joking.
kidding.
So I guess somebody in the audience will hear that and think
They're serious
I'm being
about it.
serious about
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So it's whatever. But so I moved out to Atlanta, got an apartment, and I was trying to like. I was super happy. My first apartment. I'm like, oh yeah, like people like come visit me, and no one was willing to drive like the 30-40 minutes out, and like
Really?
yeah, and it kind of sucked. And also I was super busy. Then I got into that point where everybody is starting their careers.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them were off on the weekends. I work at a restaurant. You
Oh
forfeit
yeah.
your weekends.
I used to work 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get it. And
Oh, excuse me.
it's hard to have friendships. I guess like where
Besides
I'm
your
at,
like your restaurant work friends.
because you're with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I worked in real estate 6 days a week, 60 hours a week sometimes, and then I was a waitress on the side too. So I just learned to be content. Maybe I didn't always like my people I worked with.
Oh no, who does?
I never said anything. I was just like, oh, whatever. I'll go with the flow. You kind of learn it's just temporary, I guess.
Yeah, and so like my social life went literally from 100 to 0.
Mm-hmm.
Made me sad. Uh, I was in a relationship at the time in the city, and like it started to get a little bit rocky. Come 2020, during the summer, we split up, and then I already made the decision to go back to school. And so I said, you know what? There's nothing for me here in the city. I'm gonna move back. And honestly, one of the greatest decisions I've ever made. I got my social life back. Started the podcast, going to school. Everything is working out, and I'm a little like I'm an optimist, like overall, but at the same time,
You're
like
always looking for what's about to happen.
I need something bad to happen just
so I
to
can
equal
be
the
thankful.
balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so far, good things have been happening. I'm like, I need something bad to happen just to equal, but nothing too bad. But
Well, so what's the worst that could happen with the podcast? I mean, absolute
my
worst.
equipment failing.
Okay. So if your equipment failed, what would you do?
I get another one.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah.
I mean,
no, well, that's not even the worst case. No, the worst. Oh God, I feel so bad. So yesterday I hung out. Well, actually, this morning, like after work at midnight, my buddy Alec and we went to downtown Acworth to do a little tribute to the 9/11, and I released a video before you got here. So his episode, he came on the show. He's the one that gave me the mugs. Shout out to you, Alec. Freaking love him.
Yeah, you had to make sure you're positioning so everybody
Well,
can see.
he made sure that I'm right-handed, so like I know.
They have to see the logo.
Exactly. Like endorsement kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah, Alec, great guy, and I feel so bad because when I was editing his episode, I to make a long story short, with the technical stuff, basically I ran out of space and I had to delete a bunch of stuff, and I went too trigger happy on deleting.
Of course.
That I kept our visual file, but I deleted our audio file, like the microphones. The phones, however, captures they have built-in microphones. Right. So I was able to use that. The episode wasn't fully dead, but it's not as great.
It's not what you expect, or you have qualities that you expect to happen, and sometimes.
Yeah, and that's why I made a list. I bought a backup hard drive. I started backing everything up. So after we wrap here, I'm backing everything up before I walk you out. I was the angriest.
You're escorting me out.
I was the angriest person that day. Like several people called me and texted me. I didn't pick up. I was like, no. I'm mad. I'm trying to see if I can reverse this. Couldn't. I don't want to talk about it.
Well, things happen, but realistically.
But no, if going back to your question, and you know me, I'm not an emotional person, so if something bad happens, I'm quick to go like, oh man, that sucks, but I'm gonna get through it. Like I got this.
So that's a problem I have. I am just kind of, I don't feel anything till I really feel it, right? So I'm always like, that sucks, but we'll get through it. Or, oh man, that's really bad for them. I hope, but it's like a never second thought. And some people think that you're kind of heartless, even though you have all this love to give and you want to help everybody you can, but because you're like, that sucks for you, you sometimes get the short end of the deal. But it helps in other parts of life. Like, that sucks, but I'll get a new microphone. But sometimes you're like, oh, you broke your leg? That sucks.
Oh, you can't walk? Sucks to be you.
Sorry. What can I do for you? I can't mend your leg back together.
Oh, man. My buddy Steven, he has a story where he went snowboarding in Canada. He was supposed to be there for like 3 or 4 days.
Well, wait a minute. There's not snowboarding in the United States?
Well, he went to Canada. I'm just saying he went to Canada.
Oh, I'm like, well, why?
No, I go to Colorado to snowboard. It's the best place ever. But he went to Canada, and I think he was supposed to be there for like 3 or 4 days. The very first day, he like got like so much height that he fell, like landed badly, and he was injured throughout the whole trip. And I was like, I wasn't there with him. He was telling me the story, and I was just like, man, that sucks. But if I was there, I would have rode right next to him, being like, man, it sucks to be
that
you.
Sucks.
And just like go down the mountain.
Because what can you really do?
What can you do?
You can't pick him up and. I mean, I don't know. I've never.
No, I would try to help him, but I'm gonna laugh a little bit.
Let's just.
I'm a jerk sometimes.
It's gonna be so painful while we get you down, but we're gonna get you down, okay? No, sometimes when you have personalities that aren't very emotional, even like my partner, my significant other, so emotional, and there are days that I'm like, I don't understand you.
He's like, gonna watch and be like, no, I'm just kidding.
And I'm like, I just don't care. Like, and I hate that because I'm like, if it doesn't affect my daily life, throw it in the trash. If it affects my monthly life, I'm like, okay, I care a little bit. If it affects my year, if it's not going to matter in a year, I really don't care.
You'd be perfect if you enrolled in martial arts. Oh my God, I can't tell you. I know, like, it's like I preach about it like all the time, but
I broke my toe in my living room. I don't know. Yeah.
And my mom,
I don't.
That was supposed to too.
No, but like, because you got to be calm, and you learn to be calm in stressful situations, and like. And it's the same with working out, not just with martial arts. It's the same with any sport. That
you feel like you are going to die sometimes when you're working out, but you just work through it.
You work through it, but then like you're you're physically exhausted that like you don't got time for all the BS in the world. Like when somebody comes up to you with their petty problems, you're like, that sucks. Yeah. And they're like, wow, you're being like super.
I've always been.
I don't even know what the word because I don't care. Like,
I feel like. In general, I was shy. You know that. I didn't have a lot to say, didn't have a lot of opinions, but when I do have an opinion, like with my kids' school, I have a strong one. And I'm like, I don't care what you think. It is what it is. It sucks for you, but I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. So
I'm not going to go too much in depth on this, because he might be watching, but I'm not trying to disrespect him because I do love him to death. So a coworker of mine snapped at me yesterday. Like he was just saying like, you know, I could be doing more. And he was trying to say it in the sense like his heart was in the right place. His execution sucked. And I told him all this. It's not like I'm saying anything behind his back because I'm a straightforward person. I'm going to tell you. If you come up to me realistic, like you come up to me with a concern, I'm gonna let you know what I think. I'm not gonna be mad, like because I appreciate when somebody comes up to me and they're talking to you face to face instead of bottling it all up and that's big snapping. Because it takes. It sucks how now we have to say like it takes courage to just to tell somebody like moment something bad happens, like, hey, like, I don't think what you did right there was cool. Like, here's why. And then right there, the person would be like, oh, well, I'm so sorry to hear that. Or sucks that you saw it that way, but I'm not going to apologize because here's why I did this way, whatever.
I apologize to my kids. I do.
I mean, that's
like,
kind of
if
different.
I am having a bad day and I'm like, I just want you, and I kind of snap a little, just sit down and be quiet for 10 minutes. Later, I'll be like, look, Mom's just really having a bad day, and I'm sorry. I should have been a little bit nicer to you. And I find myself doing that with some things, with regular people, normal people, not children. Sometimes I will apologize. Some things, you can hang it up. I'm not going to apologize for it. And it's not, we all have our opinions. We all feel strongly about certain things. And, if I am too nervous to tell you what I think right in front of you, I will be like, oh, what's your favorite cookie? Because you're like, chocolate chip. And I'll be like, oh, I don't know how to make chocolate. I do know how to make chocolate chip.
Wait. Hold on. Let's back up. If you're too nervous to tell somebody
that they've upset me, or
you ask them what their favorite cookie is,
or
so wait, does the conversation go like somebody effed up and then you say, hey, what's your favorite cookie?
Or I'll say
chocolate chip. You pissed me off back there. No. All right, now that we got that out of the way, like, I'm trying to see the transition.
I've had this problem my whole life.
You scratched my car. What's your favorite cookie? Chocolate chip? All right, great.
Well, my favorite
your face
one
is going to look like a chocolate chip after.
My favorite one to use is my favorite color is. And usually, if somebody's around me, my favorite color is pink. I like pink, black, and white. Those have always been the three that I gravitate towards.
Red, black, white.
Yeah, see?
My logo.
Those are just the colors I like. And depending on my mood, if I'm like, oh, what's your favorite color? And they're like, oh, it's green. And I'm really heated, I'll be like, mine is black. And whoever's around me, they're kind of like, we need to go get Brittany because she's about to lose it. My sister's a very direct speaker. Like,
I appreciate those people.
And I appreciate her, and I've learned a lot because I've always just been quiet. When I get into an argument with like my significant other, I'm like, dude, I need 10 minutes to cool off because I do get a little hot-headed, and I'm like, no, I need to be able to see from your side.
Yeah, okay, so that's what I was going to say. Is like, do you get hot-headed, but you realize, like, hold on, maybe I'm in the wrong here. All right, that's a good feat because
so I feel
not
like
a lot of people can admit that.
Lots of times I'm passionate in general about things, and if I am arguing with you about something, it's probably important to me. But I am, because I do get hot-headed and I do get a temperament, I'm like, dude, I need like 15 minutes just to... And what I try to do is the first 5 minutes, I'm like trying to cool off. I'm angry. Screw you. Screw the world. And then the other 10 minutes, I'm like, well, I could see why they feel like that. And if you scratch my car...
Oh no! I'm
Poor Devin. Like, he is a blessing because he would care. He'd be like, well, "How'd your car got scratched?"
Yes. Like, what are you talking about? I'm outside Devin here. Yeah, you scratched my car.
It's material.
Okay, cool. Yeah. You're fixing it though. Like,
yeah.
Whoever scratched it, they're fixing it.
If I scratched somebody else's car, I would feel like crap. I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, give me let me get your phone number. Let me call a body shop. Let me fix it for you. But if someone's, I'm like, oh, it'll be okay. Like, and Devin's always like, you're never getting a new car because you just don't care. And I'm a terrible parker. I'm a bad driver. I learned to drive up here. Yeah. And driving up here versus where I'm at is completely different because up here, when we were growing up, I don't even think they had touchscreen cell phones at that point. They may have. It may have been like the first iPhone.
Yeah, they definitely had the first iPhone.
So driving in Atlanta was kind of aggressive. It wasn't like people were going 50. No, they're going they 900.
Yeah, no, they can't drive there.
And now, like, even coming back to visit and coming up here, I've noticed that they drive a lot slower than they did when we were younger.
Really?
Yeah. They're still fast, but they're not like the 900
They can't afford to drive super fast. And I mean, I know some people will hate on me saying it. It's just like, I can go on and on about Atlanta's traffic. They don't know how to drive. They're all angry. They're all late.
Yeah.
And
always late.
And they all consider themselves to be the best drivers. There's
I'm the worst
always
driver.
an accident. There's always construction. They always feel entitled, like, oh, it's a red light. Nah, it's me. I'm allowed to go under this red light. And then cut somebody off, beeps the horn. I said I wasn't going to go on it, but I did.
Listen, I will run a red light occasionally. Not intentionally. It'll be turning yellow, and I'm like, oh, I'm already under it. Like, let's go. And it turns red, and I'm like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that. And I'll be on the phone or whatever through the car, and I'll be like, oh, man, I read a red light. And my sister will be like, Brittany, you have a way of running the red lights. And I'm like, it scares me. Like, I am petrified to run a red light, and yet I somehow always run a red light and hit a pothole.
Your insurance is going to watch this and be like, what's your rate?
Yeah, and I have a low rate. Higher. Holy cow. Yeah, I know. Yeah, she scratches her car. She hits potholes.
Oh, my God. No, man, potholes are the worst. Like, ever since I got my own car, like, under my name and everything, I've been super...
So careful, like, and you still hit them.
It may not look deep, but I'm avoiding...
Yeah.
No.
And it kind of goes back to if you're driving and somebody's coming on the other way and a deer runs out, do you hit the car or do you hit the deer? I'm going to hit the deer, not because I want to, but I don't have a choice.
Or you just hit the brakes.
Yeah, you'll still hear it. Like where we're from, like the roads are 65, the deer hop out really fast. Another person's always coming the other way, and you take it and you're like, well, the best of the two evils, because there's never a win. I feel like in life, no matter what you do, social media, you're either on it or you're not, and there's an evil to both sides. Either you're lonely or you're on social media and it takes part of your life.
I'm going to push back. No, I think even though I hate social media, you can make it work in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
And because like with this podcast, like I have to rely on social media to get it out there. But here's the thing. There are some content creators, like, again, this show isn't popular. Maybe one day it will be. But there are some people, content creators, big and small, that they're obsessed with views. They're obsessed with likes. Like, they thrive on that. And I'm not judging it, but it's definitely not healthy. And they'll look at their comments. They'll try to, kind of kick off anybody who's being, cyberbullying people in the comments. And my thing is,
it's always gonna happen.
It's always gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's whatever. But and the people who are like, they're watching their videos and it's like, man, it's not getting enough views. It's not getting enough likes by strangers. I'm like, yeah, who cares? And so that's how I feel about with this. And again, this is a hobby. I know exactly what I want it to be. I'm in school to be, dental hygienist. That's where I want to make my, living and my career.
And you want this on the side.
I have this on the side. I don't even consider it on the side, because side usually implies that you making money.
You make money, or you don't put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
So I'm a full-time mom.
Yeah.
I haven't always been a full-time mom. I used to work. And on the side, I work. And social media really keeps me from having to not knock on doors for clients, but be like, oh, do you know anybody? Oh, where I can just be like, hey, if you need whatever service that I have.
No, it's a useful tool, and just like any tool, you can do bad things with them, and you can do good things with them. I make sure to do good things with them. Like I'm pretty sure one day, if I don't have them already and they're just being silent, like, you need to take that.
Sandra, you named it, man. Okay, there you go. But no, it's for me, I feel like it is a double-edged sword, because if you swing it the wrong way, if you choose to swing it the wrong way.
But see, like, you're right, it's a double-edged sword, but the thing is, in a way, it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
Like,
You're right.
you can control it to, again, like, kind of going back with the social media thing.
It's okay.
Kind of going back with the social media thing is that, if I don't have them already, like a hater or somebody who's like lurking in the shadows and hoping that me personally that I fail, whatever. But maybe one day, a complete stranger or somebody I know write something like ugly on a public thing, or sends me a private DM telling me that, hey, I suck and the show can go to hell.
Always answer those DMs to people who are
Why?
hateful.
Why?
Well, no,
Here's
like
how I would act. No, for real. I would leave them on red. I would look at it, laugh.
Well,
literally.
I usually say, I understand. I hear or I see your concern. I understand.
I'll leave you on red. That's all you needed.
And that's all I go. And usually, listen,
I don't need a reply.
I had somebody book a Zoom with me, right? Because I work on Zoom a lot of times. And he got on Zoom to tell me that I was crap, that life insurance was crap. All sorts of stuff. I didn't have time to say, okay, well, you have a great day. Nothing. I mean, I finally was like, all right, bye. And just kind of, and I felt guilty later because because he clearly needed a vent. And I was it for the day. And I was like, man, he booked that appointment 2 days in advance. Like, he had to search for an appointment because I had a lot of appointments in that week in particular. It's how it works. Some weeks I have tons of appointments, and then some I don't have very many, but I have to travel or whatever, or life gets in the way, and I'm like, no, I'll move you to the next week. I'm not going to take you as a client, but I'll give you to somebody else. I know. But it amazed me that he went through all that mess, and I remember
to tell you,
I took a couple of days off, and I was like, man, am I doing the right thing? Am I really helping people? Because that was one of the things. I worked in real estate. I didn't really help nobody. Like, I helped with accounting. I helped the real estate company, but did I really help anybody? No. I took their money. Well, literally, that's what I did. I could close a vacation sale in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, how many rooms you need? Okay, I got this one that's $700 for 2 nights, or I've got this one for $2,000 for 3 nights. And I could close it in a few minutes. And when the pandemic hit, there's a couple things. I knew my children, but I didn't know the depths of them. I talk about that a lot. Like, my daughter was a year old when I started working. And when 2020 hit, and I took time off from work, not by my work's choice, I learned that I didn't know my kids as well as I thought I knew them, and they just had some and part of that's them growing up, right? Yeah. As you grow up, your brain develops more. You have more.
But also, you were just working a lot.
I was working a lot. I was working a ton. I really supposedly had 2 days off a week, but I was on call, or I was always answering the phone. I wasn't engaged like I expected myself as a mom to be. And you're gonna laugh. So I went back to work, like, because I was off for like 6 weeks or something. Went back to work, and I had mentioned something about a good friend from high school was getting married, and she had moved it from June to September. I said, hey, this is June like 2nd, June 3rd maybe. I said, hey, I need a Saturday off, and I only needed like 2 hours off. Like the last 2 hours of the day to travel up to North Carolina. And, hey, I need this Saturday off, at least half the day. And they told me no.
Oh, wow.
Straight no. I put in I actually gave them not 2 weeks notice, but I call it that. I gave them to the end of July saying, look, I'm out of here. And they really thought I was going to change my mind. I wasn't changing my mind for $23,000 and not seeing my kids and being told no. it was a paradigm shift. It was kind of like, and I was reading an article the other day that more people are leaving their jobs now than there has ever been. And
Oh yeah, well, I mean, there's a huge, I mean, things with like the vaccines and
yeah,
like the mandates and stuff like that, mask, a whole bunch of other reasons.
yeah.
But
Well,
in a way,
people,
good. It's letting some companies know like where your priorities are gonna lie.
and you'll hear me say all the time, big businesses, or in my case, not. It was a decently sized business. Sometimes your boss's priorities don't match yours,
Of
and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's all right to step back and say, I really need time to think about what is important in my life. And it puts big businesses at risk, in my opinion. First of all, I don't care what you think, right? Okay? I don't care if you want this or want that, or you do this or do that. It don't affect me. It don't affect
And
my
we're back
choice.
to the drone effect. So real quick, I want to I like
I
how
try to
we
be
just
nice.
I like how we went on. You vented, I vented, you vented, I vented.
Yeah, I like to
So
harass you.
so one thing I wanted to talk about is so now since you said now you're a full-time mom, and you're homeschooling your kids, is that correct?
So our school system.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about it?
I will gladly talk about
Okay,
it.
good,
I
good,
have
'cause I
no
kinda wanna
problem. I'm
talk about
trying to think about how I want to put this. My kids are currently in public school.
Mm-hmm.
Our school system where I'm at, we're in Wayne County.
Oh, nice.
They last year had a mask mandate.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't follow. Like, I'm not trying to be ugly. If they didn't follow it, it was there. Like, you have, and they would follow it in the hallways and like crowded areas. But if you were in your classroom, they didn't follow it. Which I really didn't care, because I'm not trying to be ugly when I say this. My granddaddy passed, and
Because of COVID?
he got COVID, and he was older, but he had a list of other things wrong with him.
He was in the high risk category.
He was.
Yeah.
And dude, he shopped at the right time. He done what he was supposed to. And he was very scared, and he isolated himself. Now, a year out, it's been a little over a year since he passed. I can pretty confidently say that if he was sitting here and he had already passed, like, I don't know, talking to a ghost, and you said, would you have done your last year differently? I guarantee you he would have said, I wouldn't have isolated. I wouldn't have missed time with my family, and I wouldn't have died alone. And
that's the heartbreaking part that I hear in the stories, like how some people are, like
they did not let anybody.
Not only that, that they were alone, but then like the rules for thee but not for me, and other people like they got special privileges, they got to be with other people.
It was heart-wrenching. And when that happened, I remember looking at Devin and thinking about our 4 kids. Xander has had some medical issues that were very concerning. He has a BP shunt. He's had brain bleeds.
No.
Do we know how COVID affects brains in that aspect? We don't. So when my granddaddy passed, about, I don't know, a couple of weeks later, I remember looking at Devin and saying, that's it. I am done with COVID. I'm done with letting it choose what we do for our lives. Because if I've been in the situation where we didn't know if Xander was going to make it another year. No, we didn't.
Yeah.
Many times we've been like that. He got meningitis that too. He survived, If this is meant to be his last year, I don't want it to be cooped up in our home, scared of the world. I want him to see the world, experience. And I feel like when people hear me about my school board, because I'm fighting tooth and nail with them.
Oh no, I want to talk about that because I got some stuff to say.
That they don't realize that I acknowledge that there's a sickness. I acknowledge you could get really sick. I acknowledge that if you choose to vaccinate, do what you feel is comfortable for you and your family. But don't harass me because I don't believe like you, or I say, we're going to Helen. Well, why are we going to Helen? Because my child, you never know. And why would I risk not giving him the best life possible, not showing him everything he could see? And that's what I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter if that is what people like. That's what my family has chosen. And when it comes to schooling, my kids are at public school currently. And this year, like I said, last year they did masks. They went year round last year. Like they started in August. They started 2 weeks late, but they started
doing hybrid.
Yeah. I'll tell you about that in a second. So they started in August. They went to May. In May, it was decided that they would not have masks the following year, that the kids didn't wear them. It was not. Remember, I come from a small town, too. So right 2 days before school started, or 2 days before open house, they said, we're going to do masks. Well, that created a big uproar in our town because they're like, well, they didn't work. The kids didn't wear them. And they didn't have a school board meeting. They made the mandate without a meeting. So that was kind of a big situation because they weren't following the rules. Well, they ended up reversing that decision, and our kids went to school for 2 weeks. And then they were like, cases are high. We're going to go to this hybrid model. And the hybrid model is certain last name letters go Monday, Tuesday. They supposedly clean the schools on Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, the other half of the alphabet goes. That doesn't work for anybody. Like, I'm not trying to... Last year, they offered you could be in person or you could be virtual. Like, if you felt like you needed to be virtual, you should be allowed to do that, right? This year, they're like, nope, everybody's going to do hybrid. And what happens with hybrid, and then we ended up switching to virtual, and now we're bouncing back to hybrid. So these kids are being yanked apart. And it's not that they were virtual either. If you were under 3rd grade, you did packet work. That's not virtual learning. With hybrid, if on Monday and Tuesday, if you go to school Monday, Tuesday, your work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is packets. That's not sitting in front of a teacher, and it's not something that really is successful. Because we've been doing this. Like, they are not growing. In fact, the packet work, they don't even send enough. And then for us in particular, we buy other programs to help fill in the gaps because we have 2 with IEPs. They get individualized education plans. Xander is...
Is that my phone?
That's not mine.
No.
Xander is blind in one eye.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Can you tell?
No.
No. And sometimes he needs some things modified. Well, he's not getting that modification. We have a child that is in a higher grade that reads and writes and does math in a really lower grade, and she's not getting help. Xander gets 25 hours a week. How many hours do you think he's getting on hybrid? 10.
Oh, wow.
That's not even half.
No.
And I just have very strong opinions towards my school board.
Good. I mean, well, since you mentioned that, like, you've been seeing the rounds of, like, all these viral videos of parents going up to these school board meetings.
Our school board has decided that they are going to hold meetings whenever they want to and not at the legal times that they're supposed to or on the dates that they have publicated because they're tired of hearing parents.
Man, see, that's what, like, good. You're tired of hearing parents? Good.
Yeah,
like, how about
then
you
do
actually,
it right.
How about you actually listen? Like, it's not that hard.
How about,
I would get fired. If I wasn't a school board member, I'd be that one that's like, yo, we need to listen to these parents. They know better. than their kids, and they'd be like, "Yeah, DJ, you're fired." I'll be like, "All right,
Do you want to know why we went back to the hybrid model out of virtual?
tell it."
So that they could play football.
Wow.
School.
I was expecting something stupid along the lines of like, "Oh, it's for the virtual signal. It's for the safety."
No, it's for
Wow,
extracurricular
football.
activities.
Wow.
School, let me make this very clear. School is not there for extracurriculars. It is there for education. We did extracurriculars. I love every single one of our children do extracurriculars. But you know what? School is not there for extracurriculars. It's there to provide an education for our children. And they should have
I mean,
it.
extracurriculars,
They're important.
They're important, but like it's not hard for a school to provide that. Like you don't have to, you know, I mean, with certain equipment, like I know back when we were in high school, I think the most expensive one besides sports was the musicals, because instruments are not cheap.
Right. So and depending where you go to school, like down there, their band's pretty big, but like their drama department is really small, and they don't have the budget.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Big shock, because us drama kids just didn't deserve anything, But in fact, North Cobb had a lot more options and material than where I went to school. We didn't have a black box.
Yeah.
I mean, but I have made it. I wrote a letter to my school board, and I was just talking to them because they held a meeting and I didn't get to go, and I had a whole speech. And in my speech, it said, "You taught us that we are Wayne County and we are family. And I expect you to be treated like family. And sometimes family has to be frank, and sometimes they should offer advice. But our job is to support you." And I went on to tell them, listen, these kids with IEPs, we have two. These kids with IEPs in particular, the reason they have IEPs, us parents don't choose it. The school chooses it. The government, like our state government, goes over these documents. They are legal documents. And those kids that have IEPs have it for a reason. And if you're only offering less than half, that's not appropriate. That's not appropriate. You signed a legal document saying that they should have so many hours a week. The other kids, there are other kids suffering too. Like some kids go to school for emotional support, mental support, food, and our community is not a rich community. So some of those kids are going to school just to get away from their home life. There's a reason that school is there for them and why it needs to be there. So I may sound like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I want to get my kids out of my house. That's not the case. The case is my kids need to be educated, and they have the right to a basic education, right? And they receive certain services. Speech services are part of IEP. I can't teach a child to speak correctly. I don't have the skills. Sometimes there's a lady in my community, her child is fully wheelchair bound.
No.
And she's like, without the school support, because she doesn't have a nurse, because they don't have that in our community.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know what to do. She's so depressed because she loves her kid. We love our children regardless if they have IEPs or not. But sometimes that school support is so desperately needed, just so that the mom can sleep at night, or the dad can sleep at night, or whoever could sleep while the kids are at school, because they're up all night. Because in his case, he's on life support, but yet at school they get a little bit of a break, and he's only at school for so many hours. So when we're saying, hey, our kids need to be back in school, hybrid is an excuse. Hybrid is an excuse to do football. And it's a dumb excuse.
Man, that.
So
I listened to several podcasts and stuff. And one of my favorite shows is the Matt Walsh Show. And do you know him?
I think I've watched a few.
Oh man, dude, that dude's awesome. And like, he is a huge advocate for getting your kids out of the public school, and like,
So, yeah, we have recently decided that our two that do not have IEPs,
mhm.
that we are petitioning the state, because you can't just pull your kids out of school because you want
Yeah.
to. You have to petition the state, and there's some guidelines that they require you to do. The state of Georgia isn't as, like, there are other states that are really strict with homeschooling. We have decided to pull our two youngers. Absolutely. We have found their curriculum.
No, I don't, oh my god! Like, I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight because I don't have kids and stuff,
Mhm.
but that should not be a thing. I don't care. I don't
Mhm.
have kids, but that should not be a thing. It's like you as a parent, it's like, no, I'm gonna pull my kids out. Oh well, you have to go through these
You have to
fences.
jump
You have to
through
jump.
hoops. Yeah.
No.
And you could go to jail if, like, you have
That's
to get
just
a state paper. We are very serious about it. We are going to start with our two that don't have IEPs because we have 4 kids.
Mhm.
But we're going to start with our two that don't have IEPs and fill it out because we've never done homeschool before. When we've looked at private schools, there's not very many openings in our area. COVID took our openings, you know, and we have a lot of kids, so we'd want them all at the same school. But we're going to pull the two youngers and do some homeschooling with them. We found an accredited program that teaches them everything they learn at school and foreign language,
Good.
starting in kindergarten.
Good.
And
The younger they are learning a language, the better.
it is.
Yeah.
And then there's things like with the state, you have to send a declaration of intent, and they have to sign it, and then you have to take it to your school board. And supposedly the school board's supposed to accept it. But of course, I've had a big mouth, and they don't like me very good right now.
Good. No, I still show up, man. I'll make them scared. I'll make them uncomfortable. God,
Yes,
I
have made a lot of uncomfortable people
Good.
recently.
Good.
Here's
I
the
just, man.
Like I said, I don't care what you choose, but I choose for my kids to go to school.
Dude, I want to go to one of these school board meetings. I don't want to talk. I just want to be.
Listen.
Not only that, I want to be your hype man. I want to be there when somebody like drops bars and be like, oh snap, oh man, they told you. Oh, I want to be your hype man.
I told them, if you would have known me in high school, if you would have known my name in high school, you would have been like, oh, she's quiet.
Yeah.
She don't say a word. And I really didn't. But when it comes to my kids, I'm like Mama Bear here.
Good.
Like, my kids deserve better. Your kids deserve, and your future kids do deserve school systems that work for them.
Oh man, like
our tax dollars pay for this.
That's what I'm saying. Like, listening and watching all these school board meetings, and so but besides the mask mandate, this was like a little bit before it.
Mm-hmm.
With CRT, and my thing is like
that's the reason we're pulling.
And see me. Like how earlier I was saying that I'm not an emotional person. There are very few things that can kind of get under my skin. I won't lose my cool, but it's like these are certain things I'm passionate about. Race is one of them.
Race is one, right? And I feel like it makes me uncomfortable to talk about it because I don't want anyone to feel like.
No, see, and that, like, I mean, I feel you, but see, that right there, that's why that pisses me off. Because you shouldn't feel, because people did such a, I hate it.
They've done a terrible job.
I will say they did a good job of,
when we were growing up.
I see it like I see it like an award battlefield, like that opponent. Like if I were to see this, like if I wasn't living in today's time and I was reading about this in the future, like reading the history, I would be like, wow, since I have no stake in the fight and this is past, wow, they did a good strategy to suppress that other side, to make them feel uncomfortable, to make them feel like they don't have a voice or that they shouldn't have a voice, and that's bullcrap.
It does.
I don't want to cuss because your kids are here, but like
I don't care. I'm bad mom over here. We cuss in front of our kids. We drink alcohol. We don't
that's
smoke,
whatever. But yeah, no, because I cuss like a sailor, but I can control it.
This was the needle in the hay straw for us. We're doing hybrid. We get packets sent home. And our first grader, and I want to, there are certain things that should wait when your child's more emotionally mature, more mentally mature. A 6-year-old is a 6-year-old. So one of my favorite things that I learned about growing up was Ruby Bridges.
Same.
Her story is incredible. Is it appropriate for a 6-year-old? Probably not. Because it's not just like, oh, Ruby Bridges went to go. It was like, it really goes in depth with these 6-year-olds about racial inequality. My kids need to know about racial inequality. I agree. But if we're not doing it at an age-appropriate level or putting it in age-appropriate material, that material says K to 12. That should immediately say first grade. That's too old for first grade. I want my kids to learn as much as possible, but what I don't want to happen is...
You don't want them to be guilt tripped into it. You don't want them to feel like,
when we talk about segregation in particular, for me anyway, I want my kids to, one, understand how terrible it was. And that is unacceptable. But two, I also want them to be able to say, man, I'm no different than you. Like, you're a person, I'm a person. It doesn't matter what we look like.
Yeah.
So when that packet came home this week, that was kind of like, and I tried to go through it, and I try to give everything an open book and try, right? And when my daughter, and she's the most emotional mature of all of our kids, when my daughter was like, why couldn't she just choose what school she went to? It was like kind of red flag to me that she's not old enough for that material. And when I brought it up to my school, they're like, kind of like, well, you can homeschool or you can go to private school.
Homeschool. Thank you.
Yep. That was kind of one of those things that it threw me over the edge, because I want her to learn about Ruby Bridges. I want her to learn about segregation, but I want her to be able to truly encapsulate it. And be like, oh, crap. People really screwed up.
Yeah, like, the whole point, it's funny because, like, I'm in history class right now. Like, I wonder if my professor watches this.
They're going to be like, that
like,
country bumpkin lady is crap.
She's going to, like, mark points off me. Like, with history,
there's always two sides. And, but it was wrong.
Well, not only that, like, and I'm particularly talking about, like, teaching kids, like you said, because this, again, I don't have any kids. I hope to in the future, but this is what I would say. Like, me and the wife, we would talk. It's like, all right, listen, we got to make sure that whoever teaches them history, whether we're homeschooling or we send them to a good school that's going to teach them our values, is it's like, listen, I want you to not only teach this history, but I want you to make sure that it's like, hey, listen, in a way, I don't know how to phrase it, but
it's hard. It's hard to have this conversation.
Yeah, in a way, it's like, I want you to teach this, like, this has passed. Yes, that's the
problem I had with this packet in particular, was it made it sound like it was today. Yeah,
and see, that's my thing. Like, okay, like, let me put this on the table. Is there racist people today? Yes.
Yeah.
Is there still racism here today? Yes. Not as much as it was in the past, and I don't care. I will fight tooth and nail to anybody who disagrees with me. I challenge anybody. I want them on the show so we can talk about it civilly. Yeah. But my thing is, okay, like, so I'm gonna say something again. I'm a broken record, but I'm like, I just want to put this out there. So I relate everything to martial arts. I think almost anything in life, I can relate it to martial arts. One of my cousins, I'm not going to say who it is, like, but me and this person, we disagree about race relations and all that stuff. And I told this person, this person asked me, how can I say this? How can I believe this? And all that. And I said, because of martial arts. Why? Because I've gotten my butt kicked and I've kicked butt. I've been choked out. I've choked people out. And
until you're in those situations, you can't learn about it.
Yeah. And with all that, one thing I've learned was I'm not a victim.
Mm.
Like, okay, like right now, if I were to lay down the mats that I had and I was to teach you, like you, Brittany, how to get out of a chokehold.
Can you please do a podcast where you're teaching somebody some martial arts?
I might actually, like in the future.
That would be so cool.
That would actually be kind of cool.
Okay, that was side note.
That would actually be kind of cool. I might write that down for the future. But anyways, I could literally teach you who has no experience in it. I could teach you within 30 minutes to an hour how to get out of a basic chokehold. Now, it's not about you getting out of the basic chokehold that's important. It's learning about step 1. Because you can't do step 10, which is getting out of the chokehold, until you do step 1. And in order to do step 2, you got to do step 1. Once you do step 1, you do step 2. You can move
on to 2.
Yeah, and you move on. These steps are important. And what you learn is not only about these steps, but you learn, I can do these steps. There's no reason for me not to do these steps. I can do this. And right there, like slowly but surely, you realize how powerful you really are as an individual. And again, kind of going back what I said earlier is like, whether it's martial arts, sports, working out, whatever, when you do a physical activity and you're just exhausted, you don't have time for the petty BS in the world. But anyways, with martial arts and other sports is that, well, I talk about martial arts. But anyways, but because I've been choked out, because I've been in a stressful situation, and I remain calm and I do these steps, I'm able to get out of it. Okay, that's great. So I just apply that in other life. Before I went to school, I was at a restaurant and I was pretty unhappy. My social life was crap, and I was being choked out, and I needed to get out of it. So what I did step 1, I did step 2, and now I'm here.
And now you're doing what you love, and you can breathe again. And I feel like...
Well, let me add this real quick. And when somebody goes like, oh, that's great, but somebody has it easier than you, or somebody has it harder than you. If somebody says to me, they're trying to oppress me, they're trying to get me to have that mentality like, oh, well, there's an oppressor. You know what I'm going to say? Good. I need an opponent. I need to look somebody dead in the eyes and be like, hey, you're my opponent? Great, let's handshake. I'm taking you down. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Because you're your biggest enemy and you're your biggest supporter. Like,
you're right. Nobody's going to be able to teach you better than you. And nobody's going to be able to teach your kids better than you, because you're their parent. And one thing, there's such an uncomfortability about talking about race. Because you're like,
see, I got heated a little bit. But I'm in control. I'm having
I don't want to offend anybody, but I want to learn. I want to be like, okay, well, tell me what I should teach my kids about your race. And they need to be emotionally mature enough to handle it, because right now
it's thing is, it's the guilt trip. Like, like here,
I shouldn't sit here and feel guilty. And when did I meet you? How old were you? Do you know? We were in high school.
17, 18.
What kind of relationship did we have?
We were friends.
Yeah, but we had a connection.
Yeah. And
there were days that, did you want to be more than friends?
Oh my God. Yeah, I didn't think you were. Hey.
This is where I'm going with this conversation.
Like, she
so did you want to... Yeah. What do you feel like would have, or because we never dated, and what did you really feel like held us back a lot? It was my hesitance.
Oh, yeah.
It was. And a part of it had to do with, and this has changed as I've gotten older and I've gotten more outspoken, but what our parents grew up when it came to race, what our grandparents grew up when it came to race, is completely different than what we grew up.
Yeah.
Part of it came from social media and the opportunity to see the whole world. So there was hesitance on my end because I didn't know how I would have been treated by my family.
And like, I mean, I'm glad you said it. It's a real thing. But
do you know what? Now they're like, man, because part of it's because I've dated all over the board now, but and I've been more brave. But man, my kids will never feel that.
Good, yeah.
They will never feel that pressure. And I'm sitting here saying, oh, I didn't like Ruby Bridges for my first grader. Not because I don't like the story, not because
No, it's a good story. It's a powerful
it
story.
is so
but
important for our kids
you
to
don't
know
want
that.
them to
Not
have it be wasted if they
at 6 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
When all they want to do is play outside. Like, that is a strong topic. That is a
I
topic
learned
that
about Martin Luther King.
I was in the 5th grade, and
I think I was in the 2nd grade, but it didn't hit me. I didn't fully understand that till sometime, I think, in middle school.
So when I was in the 5th grade, we did Black History Month.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big deal because what you did in Black History Month was we went to Atlanta. I was in South Georgia, and we visited Martin Luther King's house. We did the Civil War. We even did the Civil War thing where it spins.
I don't know.
It's somewhere up here.
I mean, I haven't been there.
But that was a big topic for 5th grade in particular. And now looking back, seeing Ruby Bridges for my first grader, and we talked about Ruby Bridges too, but I'm like, man, she's just not emotionally mature enough because, 5th grade, I keep saying about middle school is about the right age to, depending on your child, because I understood the heaviness of it. And again, it still affected me when I was in high school because even though for me and you, good friends, I liked you, I had guilt because my grandparents and whoever, because life was different. And I feel like millennials in particular are kind of like, you're a person, I don't care. It doesn't matter sex or race.
But what's
and we will teach our kids, it don't matter.
But see, like, and
what's happening is they're teaching children to care, in my opinion, because.
But here's what I'm gonna add. It's not to not only care, but that you need to care about the sins of your father. That's saying,
and I think that was what I struggled with.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna go with. And see,
I was kind of like, how could I date him and
but see, like,
not feel guilty that maybe my ancestors put his family through something?
See, and
like, or people he loves through something.
And see, like, it's like, I hate that you had to have that thought.
And there was no way to talk about it when we were growing up. It wasn't an open conversation.
No, but see, that's what I'm talking about. See, this is why race, like, is one of those things I care about because, again, and this is where I can say, like, man, my opponent, though I do not like my opponent, like, they did a good technique, a good strategy to muscle
that you respect,
some people, and
in some ways,
like, not really.
It's just, I don't like the word respect.
No, it's just wow.
You're
like,
happy that they gave you. I can
acknowledge that. Wow, what you did was a good technique. I do not like it, but the fact that you were able to suppress and muscle people and to make them their biggest enemy, I'm like, I don't like you, but.
Yeah, and I feel like the CRT.
Because but what I was gonna say about like the sins of our father is because literally, even as a kid, like I love my parents to death, and they're my biggest, like they're my biggest fans and all that stuff, and I know they're watching this, like, and so when I hear that, I knew sins of your father, without actually knowing that quote,
that they followed with you.
Like I remember when I was like just a kid, like a teenager, young and stuff. Though I respected my dad, I didn't want to be my dad. I wanted to be me. I want to be my own guy. But
and your parents, what's so great about parenting is that you always want your kids to be better than you.
Exactly.
So I think, like I said, millennials are so open.
Me and my brother that all the time. Like he would tell us, like, "Hey, I want you to do better than me and stuff." And so I would never, even as a kid, I would hate it for somebody. No one ever did, but I would hate it for somebody to come up to me and be like, "Hey, I'm going to kick you every day because of something your dad did." I would be like, no, like, no, you're
like,
not.
Why would you do that to me? Yeah,
that was him. Take it up with him. I'm me. I'm my own guy. And so it's today's time. It's like not like. And let's stop beating around the bush. It's mainly to white people that they're trying to do it to, like oppressing them. It's like, oh, you need to recognize the sins of your father.
You need to not say anything and just be thankful that we're not doing more or we're not teaching your kids more.
And what makes me even extra mad about that, and what gets my blood boiling a little bit, but not too much because
You
she's
don't.
my niece.
Yeah.
Is that my one of my brothers? Like, we're not blood related, but I consider him my brother. He's one of my best friends. He and gave birth to his daughter, which I consider my niece, and she's white.
Mm-hmm.
And the most innocent thing in the world, and she's only a year
She's a
old, the most innocent
child.
thing in the freaking world. And you're gonna tell me that, like, oh, that person
We're
is
gonna
already
make
gonna
her
have white
feel
privilege.
bad
Oh, that person
because
already has
of something
racism in their
bad.
DNA and all that stuff. And I'm like, I know both their parents.
Mm-hmm.
They are not remotely racist.
No.
Don't you dare tell me that
And that's
has
what-
a little bit. Like, go jump off a bridge. Go play in traffic.
That's
I'll
what
help
bothered us about our little 6-year-old, because she doesn't know. And it's not that she knows we all look different, but she doesn't know race. And that's she's like,
Good.
you're a person.
When people say, like, oh, that's actually blind to say, like, I'm colorblind. Good. Is it pissing you off?
I don't
Good.
care. I don't care, because our neighbor is mixed, right?
Mm-hmm.
The little boy. And do you think that they notice? No. You know what they do notice? Man, he likes to play video games with me.
Yeah.
And I want it like that.
Do you ever see those
For now.
cute
And
videos of
later,
kids?
when they're old enough to understand, like, what happened, when they're when they're mature enough to understand, that's when we open up the conversation. And it's a conversation. It's not just, this is what happened. Mm-hmm. This is how you should feel. They weren't alive.
Dude, and like, thank God I'm at this point in my life right now, because if I was younger and in school and going through what some of these kids are going through, I'd probably get expelled, because if somebody comes up to me and be like, hey, you need to feel this type of way, and I feel the way I feel now, I would laugh at their face, be like, make me. But real quick, have you seen those videos with like two kids that, like, two different races, like, they're like 4 years old and they're dressed the same?
Devin was telling me about that one on my way up here. And it pissed him off, because he was like, why don't they recognize their differences and be happy that they each bring something different to the table? Why is it important?
Well, no. What here's what I'll say. What's, like, beautiful about those videos is, like, when they'll get the kids to be like, I remember this one kid, they were both wearing a red shirt and glasses, I think, and
they liked their red shirt.
And then they were like, oh, what's the difference? And he's like, oh, his red shirt's redder than mine, his glasses, and they're the exact same. And some people will be like, oh, that they should recognize their race at an early age, and I'm like, no. But then on the flip side, what makes me mad is that I'm not saying history is not important.
It is.
We should learn it, and you're right. Like, they should learn it at a more mature age so they can digest the information better. But
and not have sins of their fathers. Like, not repeat history.
Exactly. But my thing is, like, I mean, none of my history teachers in the past, most of them were pretty bad, but I was always a rebellion and smart, like, common sense wise.
Yeah.
That none of them try to really make me feel like a victim. And thank God I did martial arts, because that was impossible.
I'm so thankful we grew up when we did, because there was...
Yeah.
Like I said, we didn't
Social media is way worse.
We didn't really talk about race, even though I know you probably had race pressure and I probably had race pressure. Not, like, extremely in our face, but it wasn't discussed. It wasn't like, oh, you can't hang out with them because of this, or, oh, you need to change your appearance so that y'all can blend.
So I'll tell you a little bit about mine, like, a little bit of what I had to go through, but I don't want you to be like,
it won't hurt my feelings.
I want you to, no,
Okay.
It's not even that. I don't want you to, like, be sad for me, like, oh, you had to go through that. I want you to laugh with me. And I say with me because I laughed at the time. So I'm Dominican American, and I'm a nerd. I like nerdy things and all that stuff.
But you're not associated with Dominican most of the time.
A lot of culture and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the common thing I would get is like, oh, you're white and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you talk white, you like white things and all that stuff.
Did you fit in with either culture?
Well,
like, in that aspect, do you feel like that?
So here's my answer to that. No, but not,
it didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
Okay.
Here's why. Because
I have to ask these questions because I was your friend.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter to me. But I hear people talk about, oh, especially if they looked black or if they were mixed, or even Indians that sometimes look darker.
Yeah.
they're like, I didn't fit anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but, and I think that's just personality. I'm like, how? Because I had you and I had other friends, and I was like, I don't understand, because it didn't matter to me what you looked like.
Yeah. Again, my two biggest thing, and I needed these two things. Without them, I don't think I would have been the DJ that I am today. Was martial arts and drama. Now,
drama was huge for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, yes, in a way, like
it shaped my life in good and bad ways.
Yeah. With like growing up the way I did, again, my parents were awesome, nothing bad. But anyways, it's that like, oh, I'm not the typical stereotypical Dominican, and oh, I'm liking all these other cultures and all that stuff. And you know me, I'm an extrovert, and you know me how I said like I have a way of making friends and all that stuff. Guess what? I made my own group. I didn't care. Like how, like, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be like the next action star and all that stuff. And I wanted to like, I didn't care about, here's a Dominican martial artist actor.
You didn't care about your race.
I didn't care about my race.
You just wanted to be an actor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I made my own group. I didn't care about it. I had that ability. I could make friends. And the thing that I cared more about was what we shared as, like, in a way, a culture. So when we went to...
We had a culture, right?
Yeah. So when I went to, like, martial art class, we all wanted to get better. We all wanted to get stronger. When we went to drama, we all wanted to get better at acting. We all wanted to make the best skit and build a set.
Whatever.
Like, we all had a shared value, a common goal. And most of them were different. I think that's what's been lost. Now, still, even with Dominican, like, here's what I would challenge, like, somebody who hates me for whatever reason. I can't imagine why. But somebody says, like, oh, I would challenge them. It's like, okay, what is a traditional Dominican? They will give me a list of things. I would find that guy or girl.
Xander, plug your headphones in, man. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. That's what I was saying. It's super lax.
Okay, 1 second.
But yeah. Like, so find me what you consider a traditional Dominican. I guarantee you that those two guys or girls, whatever, are still going to be different. Their favorite food is going to be different. Their favorite color is going to be different. Their favorite sports is going to be different.
1 second.
Yeah, you're fine.
1 second. They're fighting.
And we're back. Sorry about that, guys. But anyways, yes, like I was saying, if I were to grab two traditional Dominicans, two traditional Black people, two traditional Indian, whatever the case may be, everybody's going to be effing different, no matter what the case is. Like, yeah, some people are going to have certain shared values. Like, if I were to go to Switzerland and grab two random people, they're going to agree on a lot of things, but they're still going to be disagree on certain things too. No one is exactly the same.
No.
I don't even think identical twins are.
They're not.
Like, exactly. So my thing is, like, the weird thing is, what, like, I started seeing the strings that controls the system in a way. I realized this at a very early age, that no one's the same.
No.
We're gonna have, we need to have certain shared values. Like, again, like in a sports team, it doesn't matter.
Your goal is to play the best you can play.
Yeah, like, it doesn't matter about your walks of life or anything. We're in a team. We have a shared goal. What's the goal? We want to win. Yeah. So we need to share that. Like, you can't be in the team and say, I want to do all right.
So no, how do we win as people to make it, one, not uncomfortable? Like, I feel like we should be able to talk about race without being overheated. I mean, like, because
even though I get
we're in 2020.
In a good way.
We're in 2021. I lied. We're in 2021.
Wait, what did you say?
2020.
Dude, we're almost in 2022.
We are. But
what happened?
Like, we should be able to have open conversations without.
No,
like,
and here's the thing. Yeah. Like, here's my secret to it. Even though this is a small show, YouTube can probably ban it, whatever.
Yeah, they may ban our conversation.
Just talk about it. Here's the thing. Just talk about it.
Like, if you said, Brittany,
If
I
somebody
don't know.
says, "Hey DJ, you can't say this," you know what the first thing
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna do?
say
I'm
it.
gonna say
Yeah.
that. Like, be
But
like,
if
"Oh wait, whoa, that's amazing! I just said
you
that."
had, all right, honestly, if you had questions for me, or if I had questions for you, and part of the reason I like to ask people questions, regardless what race or walk of life they come
Mhm.
from, because I have kids.
Mhm.
I want to say, DJ, how did being Dominican define you as a kid? You may say it didn't.
No.
And I would say, well, do you feel like you were treated different? Because I have children that I do want to, like, I want to encourage them that everybody's different. They all come from different homes, regardless what color. Like, I hate to bring it down to basic because it doesn't matter what color you are.
Wait.
Your home's different.
Just to brighten up the subject a little bit, let me tell you a funny story. Oh my god, I was such a jerk to this old coworker back when I worked at O'Charlie's. I forgot her name. I don't even remember her name. All right, so one time there was this new coworker, and for the sake of the story, I'm gonna call her Lily. I don't know. Anyways, so I said to everybody, I was like, "Hey, I I only speak Spanish. Like I don't know English, and let's have that. Like tell her that. Oh yeah, I only
I
know
think you've
Spanish.
told me about this
Oh,
before,
did
yeah.
I? Well, I'll just tell it for my audience then. So I think I went on this for like a week or two. It felt like a week. It was for a while. This girl, the sweetest she could be, she'd be like, "Hey, can I give you my plates?" And I'd be like, "¿Qué?" She's like, "Can I give you my plates?" And I'll be like, "Plato?" And she's like, "Yeah, plato." I'll be like, "Oh, sí," and all that stuff. And she was like trying to
No.
talk to me all this much, and then like one time she was asking for something, and I was like, "¿Qué?" And she was like doing her best. She
You
was so
stayed in
uncomfortable. She was
character?
like this. She was like trying to describe it, and then eventually I ended
You
it
felt
going like,
guilty, didn't you?
I said, "I'm just effing with you. I know how to speak English." And the
I know
look
her
on
eyeballs were huge. Like,
dude,
you speak perfect English, and I
yeah,
made myself look like an idiot.
dude, I went on for this like for a whole week, and all my coworkers were cool that like they went with it, and her face was so red. It was the funniest thing. I was just like, "Yeah, I'm just effing with you. I know English." And,
Oh my gosh.
oh my
You
gosh, she was
know
such a
she
good
was
sport.
probably like,
God,
man,
that was
I
one of my
made a
greatest
fool of
accomplishments.
myself.
Dude, that was one of my greatest accomplishments. I'll never live
Hey,
up to
had
that.
she looked you up on Facebook or something, she would have found out that.
Right, oh yeah. All my status. She'd be like, "Wait a minute."
Wait, how did that happen?
That so if somebody goes like, "Oh, has being Dominican ever affected you?" Yeah, just that one time where I get to mess with a coworker. That's
So,
it.
I mean, so we acknowledge that there is racism. We acknowledge
Yep.
that. But at what age do you teach your kids? Do you start them at birth? I don't know if
No.
that's they're children.
No, because like again, maybe you can educate me on this because I'm not a parent yet, and one day I will be. But here's what I believe. Here's what I'm.
Sander.
I mean, he's fine. He's fine.
Okay.
Here's what I believe. And call me crazy. I don't know. I just have this opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're not a kid forever, and
Yeah.
your childhood has an expiration date, and
It does.
ugly things in the world are still gonna be there.
And it, with social
So
media,
maybe
it's
let them
smaller.
be kids. I don't know. Like I just have that opinion.
So I feel like that too. Why bring race into it at a
And
young
kids
age?
are emotional. Like
They are.
dude. Like if you told me, like, if oh my god, again.
Thank God nobody, like, when we were kids, were like, oh, because we were taught older.
Yeah, if you told me like I was always gonna be a
I would've
victim
felt
that I was
guilt.
never gonna live up to
Yeah.
anything, like as
And
an
we're
emotional
on
kid,
the
I can't
opposite
imagine
side
that.
of the spectrum because you would have been like, man, I hate life because I'm a victim, and I would have felt guilt for my whole life. What good does that do for anybody? It doesn't do you good. It doesn't do me good. That's not how my kids are being raised.
Now, like
Should they respect everybody? Yes.
now in a jokingly, oh, are you okay?
It's okay. It was my iPad.
Oh, still, like don't let it crack.
Verizon.
But in a in a dark way. I'm not like serious about this, but I almost have that mentality. Like, thank God no one has ever like approached me and been angry with me saying like, oh, that I need to feel like a victim or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost have that feeling like, all right, tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I'm gonna lay down the mats. Come to wherever. Come to this gym. Let's roll. If you beat me, if you are able to choke me out, I'll consider myself a victim. If you can beat me. If you can't beat me, then shut up.
I just think kids should be kids. I think
kids should be kids. I just have that weird opinion.
I feel like that about a lot of things, even when it comes to school. Like, they should learn to read, write, and do arithmetic at a young age until about 3rd grade, right? Do we really need to throw social studies in before 3rd? Probably not. Listen, I love social studies and science. I am so excited to get to
science,
teach that. I love math and I love science. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
But I'm also realistic enough to say, are they really going to grasp Newton's laws? No, they're not. Not to learn about 3rd grade when they're sitting down, paying attention. That maturity hits in. I'm like, okay, so when we're talking about race, is 3rd grade appropriate? Probably not. They really need to middle school, like that middle school age, because you grow a lot and you think more. Your world is bigger. When you're a 1st grader, your whole world is your house, any extracurricular activity you do, and your school. The world's, that's as big as it is for them. Yeah, they know about other things, but that's their whole world. When you bring in these big topics like Ruby Bridges, that's too large for her little world. Mm-hmm. Her world's not gotten big enough to understand, and she's not emotionally equipped for her own feelings to understand that.
I just...
And I keep fighting my school board over all sorts of stuff. Now let's throw curriculum in it.
So let's change the subject a little bit. But going with the school board, how do you feel about the mask mandates then?
So, I am not. Let me put it this way. Mm-hmm. Our school board doesn't want to be liable for COVID. Mm-hmm. Is our school board going to be liable for respiratory illnesses that are not COVID due to mask? No, they're not going to cover hospital costs because, and it doesn't really affect my family. I bought masks. I bought holders for the mask. I don't really agree with the mask because children get dirty, man.
Dude,
it's so quick.
How about... And they're in the low risk category. Their like statistic is like virtually 0. And my thing, again, like I love watching all these parents like combat the school board and all that stuff, and how they're saying like, you don't care about our kids, I care about my kids,
right?
And all that stuff. And
your only job. This is what I told our school board. Your only job.
Dude, what was the school board? Real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off, but what was the school board meetings like before all this? I feel like
well, let me tell you, I want my
chill.
School board to put my school into a school zone and lower the speed.
School zone?
It's not in a school zone. Not kidding.
Isn't that like contradicts?
Yeah, so you can go 45 in front of the school. In our case, we walk to school because we live across the street from school.
But like it defeats the purpose.
Yeah, so, occasionally you would have an upset parent about curriculum, or you'd have an upset parent about, in my case, the school zone or lack thereof. And school zones are important not just for those walkers, but the kids in the car, the kids on the school bus. Like, what if somebody's going 55 because that is a 45 and people like to go 10 over, including myself sometimes, but not on that road because there's school. But what if that person nails that bus, man? In fact, somebody we have a fire hydrant in our front yard. She got it. But she was going really fast when she got it. And that still wasn't red flag to put this area in a school zone. And there's a dance studio and several daycares and karate's right there. You can't, I don't know. But school board meetings used to be like, occasionally you would have a parent upset about school zones or...
They probably had like 1 or 2 parents for a while.
And now they're packed out.
Yeah.
Literally, our school board meeting, you get 2 minutes to talk, so you better.
Yeah, like
It's
have a
like
speech
word
prepared
vomit.
and all that.
And then they really don't care. Like, I hate to be like that.
No, I mean, I don't know what
they
you have
don't.
To, no, they don't, and that's
they have forgotten their job.
It just scares me of how much power
they have. A lot of
dumb
power.
people have, and oh man, like I can't tell you, like as a kid, I remember as a kid thinking like, oh, all adults were smart and
They're
all
not.
adults were had, or if you wear a suit and tie. Like, or if you wore a suit and tie, like you're smart, like, oh, and all that stuff.
No.
Oh, you work for the school board, you're an executive.
You've got to be really brilliant to work for the school board since you're educating children.
Oh, and you're a teacher. You're automatically a good person. There's nothing wrong with
not teacher. So our teachers.
There's some teachers. Nah, I will be harsh. Like I have a lot of friends who are teachers, and hopefully they're good.
Really good teachers. We have an awesome SPED department. So whenever I'm speaking out against the school board, it's not against our teachers.
I mean, there's some teachers that need to be, smacked around a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but
Because like when I was in high school, no, I knew.
I can picture one.
And it's not like, oh, it's because you didn't do well in the class. No,
you just sucked.
It's like kind of like, I'm gonna lose all credibility right here, but in the newest Karate Kid movie, the most recent one with Jackie Chan.
I watched that one.
And it's good. I kind of like it. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, the old ones are better. Shut up. Anyways, but there was a line that Jackie Chan's character said, and he said, "There's no such thing as a bad student, only a bad teacher." And
that's accurate.
100, if not 99.999%.
And
true.
Not all teachers are for all students.
Exactly. That's when I met one.
Reality.
I forget her name, but if I had a.
Was she at North Cobb?
Yeah.
Was she teach English?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Does it start with a B? That's all I remember.
Yeah. She was the one I can remember her clearly because she was fine for me. I had her as a teacher.
Oh. Man.
And I remember you would come to my class and walk me to class, right?
See you next Tuesday.
Yeah, you could not. You're like, man, that class sucks. It sucks for you. And I really didn't have that hard of a time. But it's different per kid. Now, when it comes to the school board, they should be well educated. And they should remember their job.
Oh, yeah, no.
Is their job to make health decisions for kids?
It's just... Man,
their job is to make educational decisions for children.
It's just with COVID happening and just like all with the momentum, it's just how scary it is how people are obsessed with power, like how they love people who are scared and they're looking to them like a god.
Yeah,
and it's scary. And
fear makes people there's two ways to handle fear. Either you're gonna head on.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about I don't know how much you know about Xander, but I talk a lot about this with Xander.
Oh.
He was born at 24 weeks. They were like, he's not going to make it. He won't make it a day. Dude, wow. He's 8, right? But I talk a lot about this, especially with parents that go through the NICU, which is the ICU for babies, infants, that there are two responses because it's scary. It's dreadful. Either it's a fight or you fly.
Yeah.
And that's most things. So either you're going to face it head on and say, nope, this isn't going to ruin things. No, in my case, my kid's going to limp. Nope, you're going to treat him. Or you're going to say, I can't handle this, I'm out. And you're going to go to somebody who can handle it. In our case with COVID, I find myself saying, oh, no. My kids need education. COVID has, I feel like, and you can correct me, and I'm going to ask you your opinion, but do you feel like media in particular, here I'm going with this, do you feel like media has changed the way we handle COVID? Because maybe we didn't handle the swine flu this way, and maybe we didn't handle other things this way. Do you feel like media has put an impression on COVID?
The media, my friend, are the most honest people in the world. They want the best for us.
Or do they want to make $1?
No, they are honest, hardworking people. Are you kidding me? They are top notch. They get the seal of approval. Screw the media.
Okay, so my opinion is
God,
the media
dude.
has screwed
man.
up.
It's just.
Do you feel like pharmaceutical companies are behind?
See, I'll be honest. That I'm not gonna go too far into because I don't know. and that's like on a side note. That's the thing. Some people need to put in their vocabulary. Is saying I don't know.
I love that answer.
Not everybody knows everything.
No,
I don't know everything.
That is when my kids say, "Mom, what is this?" I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like I said, I apologize to my kids and I tell them I don't know. I'm like,
that's a good question. Let's find out together. I don't know.
My dad, I promise I wouldn't talk too much about my parents, but my dad,
you don't have to. I'm not forcing you to talk about it.
No. They like their privacy.
I feel that.
Anyway,
says the guy with the podcast.
When I was growing up, my dad had this. It was just me and him for a while, and he had this statement because, dude, I wouldn't talk to anybody, right? No one, not even my teacher. But I'd go home and I'd ask my dad 100 questions. Like I was like storing it like a chipmunk or something, and I would be like, Dad, yada yada, what does this do? What does that do? And finally, he said he got to a point he didn't know the answers, and he used to just come up with an answer. He decided that wasn't good enough anymore, and he finally started saying, "Brittany, I don't know, but did you ask your teacher?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't ask my teacher." He would say, "Go tomorrow and ask your teacher. If she doesn't know, come home and tell me. We'll go to the library and we'll ask the librarian."
Nice.
If she doesn't know, we'll figure out what topic it is. And he would literally, like when you get a wound or something, he talks about this all the time, that he didn't know it. He worked at a mill. Guy cut his finger off. Like, it happens. Like, I'm so unemotional about it because it happens, right? My dad's a advanced EMT. Anyway, so he calls the doctor, and he goes, orthopedic doctor, amazing. He's fantastic with bones and whatever. And the guy goes, "Dude, put the finger on ice. I'll put it back on. Just douse him in peroxide." And my dad's like, "Dude, the medical books say don't do peroxide. Peroxide could kill nerves." He was like, "Do as I said." So my dad douses the man in peroxide. And he takes him to the doctor, and the doctor puts his finger back on. That finger works now.
Damn.
And so he always tells that story along with when he would say, "Well, I don't know, but let's find out." And he really meant we were going to find out.
That's awesome. I'm glad your dad has that mentality.
I do that with my kids now. Because I had that
mentality, so I'm glad to know. Okay, that's a good.
I don't know if it's a man thing, because I don't know.
Dude,
if I didn't have the dad that I had and it had just been me and him, like if I had my mom who moms are nurturing. I'm not the most nurturing mom. I try. I'm more like, brush it off, keep going. But I'm thankful that I didn't have that nurturing, because I probably would have been like, oh, if mom says I'm not going to push the subject, but because my dad pushed the subject, and because he was like, dude, I don't know. Because sometimes dads are like that, more so than moms, because moms will come up with an answer and be like, go play. But
I mean, my mom knew everything, though.
You feel like your parents know everything, and we don't.
Yeah.
And because my dad was so honest, he's like, dude, I don't know.
My mom knew where all my toys were located, where everything was located. If my mom, it was scary when my mom would be like, I don't know, I haven't seen it. I'd be like, crap, it's lost forever.
Yeah, I used to say, so I went to high school up here with you for a year. Mm-hmm. And then I moved in with my grandma down south. And I was seeing a boy, dating a boy. Dating was I grew up in a very religious home. So some of the things when it comes, my parents weren't really that religious, but my grandma, she's religious, y'all.
Grandparents usually are.
So I wasn't supposed to date. I wasn't supposed to see nobody, you know. And I snuck. I went out the front door. My grandma said, Brittany, if you're going to your friend's house, you go to your friend's house. Well, let's call her Jade. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, Granny, I'm going to Jade's house. No, I drove to Savannah, which is an hour and a half from where I lived, and met with my man friend, guy friend, boyfriend. I don't know if he was. They said my grandma could tell me where I parked, how far, because in Savannah, you've been there. You kind of have to park and walk.
Yeah.
She could tell me how far I walked and how long I was there. And what time I got back to my friend Jade's house. I did stay the night with her, but I didn't follow my grandma's directions, and dude, I was in some trouble.
That's hilarious.
She was all knowing, like, and I just can't be like that with my kids. I mean,
it's okay. Like, it's kind of doing a full circle how you were talking about, like, with the parent shaming kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's...
I can't compare myself to other parents because I'm not in the same situation other parents are in. I have 2 biological children. My 2 biological children have different biological dads. I have 2 one-day stepchildren, and they all have different parenting plans. They all have different parenting situations. I have a different personality type than some moms I know. It's just kind of...
What matters, the only person you need to
healthy
is,
and
like,
happy.
Right now you're in a relationship with your significant other.
We're on the same page, yeah.
Exactly.
He's more nurturing. He is
good.
And my kids need that because
But you guys have a game plan. You're
we figured it out.
Like, whatever your flaws is, he tries to excel.
Yes.
Whatever his flaws is, you try to excel.
And you always have a plan before you have a baby. Like, I'm going to be this mom. You're not. You're usually the complete opposite because I was like, oh, I'm going to be nice. I'm never going to cuss around my kids. I'm going to read my kids a book every night. Dude, I'm president of Bad Moms Club over here. Because, and that, one thing when me and Devin got together, I had a list of qualities before I dated him. There were some things, a literal list, right? He had to have been in a long-term relationship or divorced because I'd been divorced twice by then, right? Like, that was serious to me because you don't know what a long-term relationship's like until you're in it. You can have opinions, but you don't know what it's like. Mm-hmm. He had to have kids, and he had to be a good dad. You can't just have kids and not be a good dad. I didn't want to be with you. And some of those specific character quality, and then I had a list of character qualities, and I think that comes from the religious side, like, what do you want in your spouse? But when I compared my list to Devin, I finally offered up to go on a date, and some of the things, and we still have some arguments when it comes to the kids, they're not. You're going to. Because even though I'm in a relationship with him, I'm still co-parenting with him. So even though me and my son's dad are not together, we're co-parenting. I'm co-parenting with Devin just as much because even though we are in a relationship, we see the world differently. He sees the world very nurturing. He was raised by a mom. So I think that's where it kind of balances out. I was kind of raised by my dad, so I'm more nature, and he's more nurture, and and there are times you have spats, like, I don't know, I have jurisdictions for our kids, like...
Dude, I was gonna actually mention that, like, in the middle of the...
you must have seen my Facebook story.
I did, dude, that... I will say, wow, I didn't know the word jurisdiction till, like, I don't know, like, till I was in high school or something. I was like, wow, these kids, you're doing a good job. And, like, you were, I like, especially when you were telling your kids, oh, which one do you like, and which one do you not like? And, man,
he's gonna knock that out every time.
I just thought that was hilarious because I was like, if you were to ask me that as a kid, oh, which one I liked, none.
They all said they didn't like their own bedrooms.
They didn't like their own rooms. I was like, my room as a kid, I was different. I was never a messy kid in the room.
Oh man,
a little bit.
I'm
but
still
not too bad.
I'm like a tornado. Like, I can't help it.
I'm not a neat freak, but I'm organized.
I like organization, and when it's not organized in my life, it's a tornado. Jurisdictions is actually kind of funny because I had lots of friends that didn't know what that word was. When I posted it on Facebook, they're like, what is a jurisdiction? I know, and the fact,
you're doing a good job.
You know, you see it more in religious homes is we're not a religious home, but there are certain things because I grew up
certain attributes that you
that I
borrow.
brought in. I trained my kids. I taught them to stay on a blanket when they were young, and then I upgraded them to stay on the rug, and then you could go anywhere on the carpet, and it just was a safety thing for me. But there are some people that take blanket training to an extreme. That was a religious thing. My grandmother was very religious. They taught that. It was just one of the principles about how you raise your kids properly, and they had blanket training. So I didn't do it to the extreme that some other people may have done it, but I still you use what you learn to the way that suits your family best.
Yeah.
And when it came to jurisdictions, I was shocked when I posted that on Facebook how many messages I got that they didn't even know what that word meant. And I was like, "Oh, that's your area of duty." And they were like, "What? And how do you get your kids to do it?" And I said, "Well, I just draw. I used to let them choose. I don't do that no more."
You do it random, like it cycles through? Okay.
Well, what I do is it depends on the week. If we're having a good week, I just draw out of a hat. Well, out of a cup usually, but you know what I mean. Yeah. I kind of draw out of the hat. You get this one, you get this one, you get this one. If it's a rough week, like my daughter had surgery last week, I kind of put them in their places where they do better or they succeed more, or I don't really have to go in behind them to clean. And each child is so different. Like Jubilee, she's good at the dining room and the kitchen, and she loves to do laundry. Xander does the best at the bathroom, and Ava is really, really good at the living room, and she knows where everything goes. Anna Grace really does well with the kitchen as well. So when we're talking about like their jurisdictions, I want them to experience all of them, because when you're an adult, what happens?
You got to do all of it.
You got to do it all. When you have a kid, what happens? You got to do all of your jurisdictions and theirs. And I just want to, I don't want life to smack them in the face. Like, it's our job to prepare positive, productive, successful members of society. Yeah. And that starts at home. Like, if they can't wash their own clothes, they're going to be broke because they're going to be buying brand new clothes all the time. Or if they can't put their dishes in the dishwasher or wash them by hand. We have a dishwasher. I haven't always had a dishwasher, and I love the dishwasher.
It's therapeutic.
No, no, I don't have time for that. Like, I want to go read a book.
Yeah, I feel that. All right, so we're coming up to the end of the show. Yeah. So, is there anything you want to mention? Any last topic? Anything like any advice you would like to give the world, or any?
What do you want to see in the next 10 years with your show?
10 years?
10 years.
Do you feel know what I'm doing next week?
I hear you, but I'm asking. Like, do you still want to be online or on air? On air?
Yeah. I mean, I
feel like you interview so many people, and there's so many questions I have for you.
Not 20th. You're my 20th episode. I did 3 before, so I think you're my 17th
or something.
Yeah, I guess.
I've watched quite.
So 16th? No, thank you. I don't know. So I have this joke saying that like the girl I date, like the one who I end up with or whatever, like she has to be the one that looks out in the future, because I look out the next day, like the next week.
Yeah, you're taking it one day at a time.
Yeah, I go with the flow. I don't take life too seriously. So it's like a good combo. Like, again, it's like working with your flaws and all that stuff.
So
so relating with the show, like, okay, so I am honored and like really flattered, because how there are people who've messaged me, you included, people who've privately messaged me,
I know, I
Oh,
feel like
excuse
I
me.
harass you every few weeks. Like, your show was so good this week. And I'm like, dang, I feel I'm like a stalker, man.
No,
Like, I
man.
really should back off. But
No, I feel honored, honestly, and but yeah, like I've had people message me saying like, hey, that they're interested, they would like to be on the show, they want to talk about whatever subjects, and like, cause I'll talk about whatever,
I'm so
even if it's
thankful.
controversial, we'll
This is
talk about it.
not
I'm not
what
scared.
I was coming to talk to you about. I don't know what I had so many questions. I really wanted to interview you, but it went the other way around.
Oh well, we're coming on to the end, but anyway, so but like to answer your question though, I started to make a list, and I'm actually booked in a way. Like, there's some room for flexibility, but I'm actually booked all the way till December, and so I'm really happy about that. Like, it makes me
Good.
happy. But that being said, I like okay, like realistically, after after you leave today, and I go ahead and start the editing process, and it's probably gonna take me like a week to finish, but I go ahead and hit up the next person to have on the show. And then that's it. That's the farthest extent to my show. I've had people, nice, like they're their heart's in the right place. They're trying to say, "Oh, you should do this, you should do that with your show."
And
And
it's your show.
yeah, and don't get me wrong, like again, they care. They're coming from a good place. And it's not that I won't do it. It's not like they don't have good ideas. It's that I'm not going to do that right now. I like what I'm doing
Eventually.
right now.
Yeah.
Later in
Like
the
I
future,
said,
maybe.
when you brought up martial arts, I was like, man, that'd be a cool podcast show.
Exactly. So I actually might one day in the future. Who knows? But right now, like, I take it step by step, little by little. I like what I'm doing. Can I see myself doing this in 10 years? Sure. Can I also see myself stopping? Maybe. But I don't let it dictate. My main focus
It's
right
to
now,
have
what I'm
fun.
prioritizing right now, first off, is my 3 classes. Finishing this semester. I'm
Do you ever
taking
feel
my
like
3
you've been
worst
in school
subjects.
forever? Because I feel like that.
It's only been almost a year, but I'm just like,
I've
it just
taken
sucks because I
one
know what
or
I
two
want to do.
classes here and there for the past 10. I've almost been graduating for 10 years.
Yeah.
I've taken one or two classes
Nice.
here and there. I'm like, am I ever gonna graduate?
It
No.
just sucks because I know what I want to do. That's what sucks. But anyway, so yeah, like I'm just realistically.
You have priorities, and
yeah.
you don't know if in 10 years this will continue to be your priority.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, I mean, again, like I don't even like thinking about it. Like, it's if I graduate and I start my job and I'm still doing the show, like I don't see a reason to stop. Like I'm a one-man army with the show.
Well, sometimes life gets in the way.
Something in life, I don't know what's gonna happen, but like the point
you
is,
may have children. You think my children are noisy? Imagine a 2-year-old
nah,
running
your
up
kids
in
are
here.
fine. Yeah, I don't take the show. What helps is I don't take the show too seriously. It is a fun hobby. I do recommend it.
Yeah, it's not like your income source, so you're not worried about what you say. You're not worried about what other people say.
And it's free. It's fun. One day I hope to sell merch to if people want to support the show. But
I'll buy some merch. Can I get a hoodie?
I do want to make a hoodie.
Okay.
But yeah, like I'm just having fun. Everybody should have a hobby. Not something like, and be honest with yourself. Have a hobby that's not like about making money
and
or
not
anything.
stressful.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's literally fun. This is fun. Now, like, don't get me wrong. If money starts coming in, great. I'm not gonna deny that, but I'm not banking on it.
Right.
So if the show ended, like I graduate and I become I have kids and I can no longer do the show, and if somebody says to me, hey, are you sad that you can't do the show, I'd be like, no, because I had several episodes where I had fun.
You enjoyed it while
and I'm
it
doing
lasted.
Something else in life.
It's kind of like when you grew up and you played soccer. You like soccer but would you ever play now? Probably not.
Yeah. But
I have one more question though.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. What are the top 3 topics, if you could cover any topic on your show that you have not currently covered? What would you do?
I'm
Just
sorry.
one. How about just one?
But I can't answer that because I love.
You like to talk.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, no. All right, All right, so I can't answer this in a way.
It's
All right.
important.
So
it's important to me that before this ends, that your number one topic that you wanted to discuss
no,
you got to do.
It's not about me. It's about you. It's about my guest. It's about who's ever sitting in that chair. It's not about me.
That's
just a greeting. Hey,
I'm
DJ.
coming
Hi.
back so that
you'll be back on the show.
I'm coming back so that we could talk about your topics. If you could talk about anything, seriously.
No. Here's the thing.
I'm going to challenge you here.
No. Here's the thing. Okay. The type of people I want to interview
Mm-hmm.
are people who have something to say. Like, everybody does have a story to share. Everybody's unique.
Mm-hmm.
But some of my favorite guests, and I've been having a good streak. It's been all of them. It's people who are passionate about something.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I have no idea about the topic.
What they're going to come out with.
So the last person before you was a good friend, Rando. I grew up with him since elementary school. And he does LARPing, live action role playing. Like, it's like Dungeons and Dragons, but in like real life and all that. He calls it, I like how he calls it going into the woods and doing math.
Yeah, that's kind of...
So
I always kind of think about going into space with no spacesuit. Like,
maybe
that was kind of what hit me, you know?
So he does that. I have no idea about that, but I'm asking legitimate, genuine questions because I'm interested.
Mm-hmm.
The guy before him, he does a rugby and strongman competitions.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea about that. So I like when my guests are into something. Yes, if they're too shy, if they're too timid, then it's probably best not to have them on the show. But if you want to be on the show, like if you message me saying, "Hey, DJ, I want to be on the show. I want to talk about this." You know what I'm gonna say?
I didn't give you a topic.
What are you doing? But sometimes people don't have topics, and guess what? We're gonna make it flow.
Man, did you expect for our conversations to go like this?
It's good. It's not scripted. It's good because it's fun. I don't want to be prepared. Like, if somebody comes up to me and says, "Wait, real quick, let's stop right here. I have a question for you." I'm like, "All right, good, fire." I have no idea. Let's do this.
I'd like to ask you questions. I feel like you do whatever you want on your show, but next time I'm here, I'm asking you a ton of questions.
Go right ahead. I'm prepared. It's no holds barred. Nothing's too personal. If something, I can't even think.
You can always say like, "Oh, my favorite color is
red, black, white." But yeah, if somebody says like, I mean, there are certain things that I have to keep off limits, like specific like names, like, hey, who was the person that did that?
Well, you want to protect their privacy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But besides that, my life, I'm an open book. You want to talk about I'll talk about my life. I have no shame. Want to talk about controversial things? We'll talk about controversial things. I have no shame. If you want to talk about silly things? We'll talk about silly things. There's an audience for everything.
We talked about very controversial
things. See, and what's good and bad for me, but more good, is that I don't see it as controversial.
Yeah.
It's a topic.
Well, and you don't have to worry about sponsorships being pulled or anything.
If anything, I might end up getting sponsorships. They're like, this guy's for real. Like, he's not fake. All right.
Oh, no. Okay. I had to ask about the topics. I hope that you talk about your, like, in your show, I hope you talk about your favorite ones.
Well, here's why I will never have a favorite one. It's because
it's different.
It's different, and also I'm always gonna say the same thing. Don't get me wrong. There are certain stories, certain phrases that I repeat. Again, like with martial arts, I always relate everything with martial arts. I'm a broken record, fully aware of that. That being said, I don't know if the person I'm talking to, I'm going to be able to, like, segue into that. I don't know, but the point is, I don't have a topic because I don't always want to talk about the same thing. Now, if the conversation naturally shifts to it, that's different because I didn't plan it. I mean, I don't plan.
Well, you do some research, I'm sure.
I do some research in terms of like, some certain questions to ask, but most of them are genuine questions that I have.
Yeah.
Because, hey, I don't know about NASCAR, so I'm gonna ask about one of my
I want to drive
he's
one
into
though.
NASCAR, and so. But all the questions, really, maybe one or two I got from the internet, but most of them are I have legitimate questions. Because I don't know everything. I don't know.
You don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know.
That's what makes it so
DJ,
genuine.
What do you think about this? I don't know.
I think that was why I have been so impressed with your show, is because it is genuine 90% of the time, and 99% really.
My 1% is the intro.
It's the intro, right? And it feels comfortable and real, and
I think that's my.
It's gotta be you ringing.
It has to be my phone. Oh man, I hope it didn't knock out the feed. Do you see it? No.
It's not on this one.
It's probably on this. All right. Anyways, well, Brittany, before you go, I did get you something for your drive. It's not much, but
no, I'm not taking that.
Yeah, you are.
I'll take it on camera.
You're taking it for real. But anyways, Brittany, thank you so much. Kids, thank you so much. I'm sorry that if you guys were bored and all that stuff.
I'm so glad I got to come, and I'm in this mic so bad.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, guys, take it easy. See ya.